They took the seed of an idea and planted it and outgrew Gatecon.
Hello, everyone. My name is David Reed. Welcome to Gatecon Full Circle, a retrospective. This year would have been the 20th anniversary of Gatecon. We would have been celebrating it together in Vancouver. Things as they are, you know, a lot of things have happened in the last 2 years. So we were like, well, what are we going to do? You do something. So this is the first part of the something. So hello, everybody.
Hello.
David.
Hi.
Hello.
So for me and Alan, this is the third time we've tried to get an interview out. So over the course of I guess 12 years now. A little background on me. My name is David Reed. Again, I am formerly with Stargate Command, the website that unfortunately went offline last December. Going to be going back to GateWorld soon. And this is my Gatecon family. I've been going to the convention since 2003, missed a couple here and there, but these folks, they are my extended family. Everyone sound off. Richard, starting with you.
I'm your twin brother.
More information.
Okay, one of the original founders of the company with my sister and Alan. Yeah, what else do you want to know about me?
What do you love about Stargate?
Everything.
Okay.
Started off as a fan of the show, obviously, but then when we put together the convention, that opened up a whole different world for us, that we weren't just fans of the show, we were sort of part of the mechanism of it. We were sort of getting to see behind the scenes a little bit more. So it changed how we felt about the show a lot, but in a good way. Mr.
Allen Gowen.
Yes. Well, I'm one of the founding organisers as well. My job at Gatecon is pretty much handling all of the staging side, everything that happens in the main auditorium on stage, all stage the lighting and audio visual. And recently, in the last couple of years, I've also been joined by Ian, who's we've been pretty much partners in the staging side of things, and I'm also the MC on stage.
Absolutely. Friend and Ian Rogers down below.
I'll go first. Obviously, I'm Stef Rogers. I'm his wife, Richard's sister, and Stef's mum. And I've known Alan for 25 years or so, maybe more. Yeah, and I've got the hardest job at Gatecon. No question about it. Hardest job. I have to look after all the actors. Really hard.
It's not as easy as it sounds.
No.
I mean, it sounds wonderful. It has
its moments.
Well, yes, I imagine that's why you keep on doing it, but it is not an easy thing. It's like herding cats. So
it can be. You can get some precious ones, but most of the time, I know most of them now, so it's not that bad. It's more. The green room's a bit of a party, I must admit.
Absolutely, it's one of the few chances that they get to see one another. Ian.
Yeah. I first went to Gatecon in 2004, and then went with the kids to Vancouver. And then in the background in Cheltenham, I was the chauffeur taking the actors to and from the hotel. So I've always been in the background. And like Alan said, the last couple of years or last couple of events, we designed the stage between us, built the stage, and after a very late night, managed to get the opening on time. Yeah, I'm very much in the background at the weekend and sort of like an ops manager going around trying to sort of mop up all the problems as they are happening. So you just see me tearing around like an idiot without actually seeing any of the event at all. Maybe the opening scene and the closing scene, and that's about it.
That's it. Jeez. What about you, Stef? The youngest member of the group?
Yeah, youngest, but I started helping out in 2004, and I've done 5 before officially being one of the organisers in 2016. But I mainly do the merchandise and graphics behind it all. Apart from the stage, that was Alan's doing.
Very good. One of the major components of Gatecon has always been charity. What charities have you guys supported over the years, and how much have you collectively raised?
Good question.
Who wants to answer it?
Okay, our main charity has always been Make-A-Wish. That was the one we started off with, and that was the one we were going back to this year. So most of the conventions have been raising money for Make-A-Wish. We've also done cystic fibrosis and Sea Shepherd. Between 2000 and 2005 for Make-A-Wish, we raised about $150,000 for them. I don't really know what our exact total is over the whole of the years. It's got to be 350 to 400,000 by now.
Yeah, I think there was one stage closer towards 2010 that they did actually mention that I think we had hit the $250,000 mark.
It's just extraordinary.
And I know we were the biggest single donor in the BC chapter at one point.
Yeah, apparently they said we were donating more money to Make-A-Wish than Microsoft was. I don't know how true it is, but it sounds good.
Wow, absolutely it does. Alan, can you fill us in on where this whole thing came from? I know it started with you and Friend.
Well, it sort of did. It actually mainly started between Friend and Sue, and at that stage, it was probably season 2 of SG1, and there was no merchandise out there. I don't think MGM knew how to merchandise a TV show because all they really had in their catalogue at that stage was the Bond films. So they started talking about getting some Stargate shirts made up. And then somehow that grew into doing, maybe doing a convention. And so that's when Friend contacted me and said, hey, do you want to do a Stargate convention? And I said, yeah, sure. Didn't know how serious to take it. And then Friend introduced me to Richard, and we spent the next probably close to a year to 2 years just trying to get things organised. Because at that stage, we thought you needed to ask permission to do conventions. Because fan conventions were still in the very early days back then. There was some Comic-Cons and a couple of the other big ones, but there were no really small fan-run conventions, or not many of them anyway. There was one in Australia. I don't know what was in the UK. And once we figured out that we didn't need to ask permission, we sort of set on the task of organising a convention. And then the next hard step was finding guests to attend the convention.
Friend, does that pretty much line up? Do you have anything to add to that?
No, that does, apart from the fact that it was not easy getting going because the powers that be wouldn't take us seriously.
Didn't you email the studio a few different times?
Several times, yeah.
Okay.
And then eventually I got a little bit cross, I suppose, and suggested that they took the fans a little bit more seriously, because without the fans there wouldn't be a show. And they finally responded, and yeah, they were very supportive. Sent people to our first event, quite a lot of people.
From the studio?
From the studio, yeah. And lots of props. There were some big chair things. I don't know, you probably know what they are, Alan. Those big thrones they were sending over as well.
Poker chairs.
Yeah.
They were cloakroom chairs.
Okay. The pointy ones.
Yeah, the cloakroom chairs.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want to fall on one. You wouldn't get up too fast.
No, they were very supportive.
Yeah.
The chairs or the studio?
Probably both.
Yeah. Well, at the beginning, they sent along Hank Cohen, who was the president of MGM Television Worldwide. So we had him on stage with Brad Wright and the rest of the producers and everything, and it was pretty cool.
How far in advance did you plan?
Well, for this one,
for the original.
For the original. 2 years for the original one, I would say.
Yeah.
But usually it's about a year.
Wow.
so we have a year's break because we do them every 2 years. A year's break,
It's
and
probably
then
more like 9 months type thing. We finish our convention and then we together for about 2 months, and then we start again.
So
then it's coming up on Christmas, so we all have a bit of a break, and then start up again in about January.
So Sue Seeley is missing from this group.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Sue retired after the 2004.
2005. The last one.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Sue retired, and then it was just myself, Richard, and a friend.
Guys, tell me about that first convention, Gatecon 2000.
2000.
Scary.
It was a bit of a mess up, to be honest. We didn't realise how slowly the registration queue was going to go through. We had one desk, and it was selling merchandise and photos and everything, and it took how many hours, Richard?
About 6 hours for people to get through the
it
line.
was awful.
Single line.
Everybody was going through one desk. We learned from it. Next time we had about 6 desks. It was just awful.
The space we had was limited as well, because
the
hotel was a terrible hotel.
Yeah, the venue wasn't ideal.
In a few years after we held the convention there, it was condemned and torn down.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because you could see Bridge Studios from the hotel.
Oh, so it was that close to in Richmond.
Just on the
Okay.
other side of
Burnaby.
Burnaby.
Oh, that's right. Burnaby is where Bridge Studios is. Man, I don't know why I can't remember that. Anyway.
But I remember at that event, my first meeting with Don Davis. I mean, obviously everybody knows Don Davis, and he came in with this tiny little woman, and I went gushing over because I was a fan. So glad to see you. And is this your wife? He said, "No, ma'am, this is Tara Rothery." Talk about putting your foot in it. And then if my foot wasn't in my mouth so far enough already, I had to say to her, "Oh, you look taller on the screen."
Carol?
Yeah, she was tiny.
Yeah, they got her, and I mean, the rumor is she had an apple crate.
She didn't have it with her that day.
Oh my gosh. Any other highlights from that first event?
Yeah, I think for me, the charity again, because that was the first time we did it for Make-A-Wish, and we had they sent along a wish child who'd had a wish granted, and it just happened that it was somebody that was interested in Stargate, and she wanted her dog to become famous. This was Tara, and she came along, gave a speech on the night, had everybody in tears. And we're still in touch with her now, which is, 20 years later. You know, she was a young girl then, she's a lady now, and we're still in touch with her. Boomer's no longer with us, the dog that was on Stargate, but she's got Frankie these days. And it's amazing to still stay in touch. And I think back on that event, it was when we also met Kathy for the first time from Make-A-Wish.
Wiley,
yeah, from Make-A-Wish. Yeah. And she was there representing the charity. And again, we're still in touch with her now. She comes to every event as a fan, as a member of the family, rather than a representative from the charity. But she's probably the best person for us to speak to tell us what it means for the charity.
For clarification on the point that he was talking about with the dog, just a second before we bring her in, there's an episode in SG1 season 1 called Singularity, and there's a Shiba Inu that's given to Cassandra at the end of that episode. That was Tara Petrovic's dog. Yeah. And she was the young girl from Make-A-Wish who had Boomer featured on her that episode, because her one wish was not that she would be famous, but that her dog would be famous. Exactly. So, hello there, Auntie Kathryn Joan.
Hello.
Hello. So, Richard, can you introduce us? I don't believe we've met.
Yep, this is Kathy, who's been with us since day one of the convention, originally representing Make-A-Wish officially, but now she comes because she's a member of the Gatecon family.
Well, welcome, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us about Gatecon and Make-A-Wish and the partnership of 20 years.
It has been a magical partnership. I think Gatecon has raised over $250,000 for Make-A-Wish in just that I know about. But I was actually joined the second year of the Gatecon experience. I had had my first wish assist. Jacob came up from Georgia to visit the Gatecon set. And we had an amazing tour. We spent the day on the set. There was basketball with SG1, and he directed a scene. Makeup did his makeup and gave him a symbol like Teal'c, and they did his hair, gave him a uniform, director's chair. They had staff weapon. They had special effects, rigged something up that he could fire. And I went back to Make-A-Wish after this incredible day and said, anything for the Stargate people. I will do whatever you want. The cast, the crew, the staff were just incredible. And I couldn't say enough about them for years after that. But they said, well, if you mean that, we have this little convention that has come up and they need a volunteer to come by. And they were here last year and they did a wonderful auction for Make-A-Wish, but the volunteer got a little freaked out because people were running around in costumes. And so I said, absolutely, that is something I'm very happy to do. So I went down, spoke to everybody. We had a wonderful day on the Saturday, and then the auction came around, and the auction began, and we were expecting to raise $10,000 for Make-A-Wish. It was this big, exciting event, and I was so excited to be there. And we raised 10,000, and then we raised 15,000, and then we just kept getting more and more, and they kept auctioning off more and more, and the actors kept getting more enthusiastic and generous.
That's what happens. Yeah, they a lot of them are drinking a little bit, and some of them are just high on the energy, because the energy, and it's, as someone who doesn't drink, the energy itself is extraordinary in that auction.
It is. The insanity is there. The energy is there. Everyone's so kind. Everyone's so generous with their time and with just how they speak to everyone in the room. And by the end of the night, we'd raised $45,000 for Make-A-Wish. I was floored. I'd never experienced anything like it. And then I spent the rest of the convention spending time with the people that organized it. And what I realized was, what happened at the auction wasn't an anomaly. It was exactly what Gatecon's about.
That's Gatecon. Yeah.
That's Gatecon. It's set up from the top. The team that runs the convention does so with enthusiasm and generosity and insanity. But I instantly fell in love with all of them, and now happily I get to call them my family.
Wow. I thank you for sharing that story so much. And it just brings me to pieces that we're not having it this year, you know?
Wow.
But are you guys, is that the plan for 2021, to have some kind of a connection with Make-A-Wish?
Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
The theme this year was full circle. We wanted to go full circle back to the charity we started with as well. So, yeah.
But there's always a connection with Make-A-Wish, whether the charity that we're supporting is another charity. We're always there in spirit and do whatever we can to help the Gatecon community.
Kathy, despite the fact that there is no convention this year, I do want to donate. Where can I go to do that?
That would be makeawishbc.ca.
Makeawishbc.ca. BC. British Columbia. And
British Columbia. .ca for Canada. Yep.
Okay, great. Now, when I enter that, do I put Gatecon? Is there like a memo or something so that you guys can keep track?
There should be, yes.
Okay.
A memo on there that it's from Gatecon. There's comments that you can make whenever you make a donation. So you can just mention Gatecon in the comments.
Perfect. And I would like to invite anyone who, when they finish with this discussion, if you did enjoy the presentation that we're putting on, if you would mind having a look at makeawishbc.ca, I would really appreciate it. And I really appreciate having you on.
Thank you very much.
You guys have any other questions for her? Anything that we missed?
No, I think you covered it. And Kathy covered it nicely as well. So, yeah.
It was so nice to see you all.
See you next year.
I will be there.
Oh, yeah.
Look forward to meeting you in person.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming,
Bye.
Kathy. Good to see you.
Bye.
Well, that was a nice little surprise. She's still here. Okay.
I'll get rid of her now.
Very cool, guys. All right. So how many conventions have there been now? Is it 12?
This would have been number 13, I think, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Lucky
Yeah.
13.
Yeah.
Yeah, it got canceled. Terrific. 12 conventions in 20 years. And it takes a year to plan every event.
Yeah.
Is that not just insanity or what? I mean,
Yeah.
Insanity is a common thread between us, I think.
okay.
I think
Okay,
it's
gluttons for punishment.
partly one of the reasons why we went to every other year as well. So it wasn't such a full-on.
Yeah.
And not all of them have been in Vancouver.
No.
The majority have. We've had 2 in UK.
Okay.
Is it 2?
Uh,
Yeah,
2.
2006 was in Cheltenham, and 2007 was in Reading.
Well, for the group of us here, the UK is much more accessible for most of you. Why Vancouver?
Well, basically you've got all the actors on hand because the majority of them still live in the area, and we get something like 50 actors dropping by over the course of the weekend. Some of them we didn't even know were coming. They just happened to call
They
in.
heard about it. Yeah, their buddies talk. They all talk. So
Yeah, and that's, you wouldn't get that anywhere else.
And the crew as well, with them being local. You wouldn't get those in the UK.
Yeah.
Plus, we were allowed to do, in the early days, we were allowed to do studio tours as well, which obviously an added bonus for people.
absolutely extraordinary, a once in a lifetime experience to any of us who got the chance to go.
Yeah. And
Allen,
we still do shooting location tours.
That's right. Tell us about the first Stargate that you guys built for the first convention.
That was pretty cool, actually. It didn't look very good. It was actually pretty bad if you got up close. I actually took a section of Stargate, or created a section of Stargate, and carved it out of plaster of Paris. And then I made a fiberglass mold from that. And then when we got to Vancouver, we were actually invited over to GateWorld, where they make all the props and sets for Stargate. And both myself and Richard went over there, and using the mold that I had, they showed me make multiple sections of the Stargate out of it's like a foam rubber. And so both myself and Richard at GateWorks, working with the Stargate props and set deck construction department, and we built a Stargate.
A thing of
And
beauty.
they helped us paint it up, and then they actually helped us build the stage set as well.
Tell us about your philosophy for the stage and conventions in general.
My philosophy is I'd been to a few conventions before we started Gatecon, and conventions all had the same theme. It was a room full of chairs with a stage, with a desk with microphones on it, and actors sat behind the desk talking in the microphone. And there might have been a backdrop, a sheet with the convention name on it. And I just found that really boring. So having a bit of a theatre background myself, I put the idea to everyone and said, I want this to be like a stage production. I want it to have sets. I want it to have big video screens. It needs to have music. And then Richard actually came up with the idea of doing the intro video, the Absolutely Everybody intro video. And so we did that. We did a few music videos, and we treated it as a stage production. So it had all the lighting, had the stage, good audio system, and and that's the philosophy we've always kept all the way through it. Some years it's been a very minor stage. Some years we've had help from Stargate Productions. At least 2 of the years, me and Ian went absolutely overboard and and did probably the stage that I've ever seen in my life on any production. Picture of it behind me.
Yeah, exactly. What's behind you is part of the last set that you guys built.
Yeah, which we built in 2016, reused in 2018, and we have a plan for a brand new set for 2021. Won't be as technically
ambitious
as this one, but ambitious still the same. And it will be a bit of a throwback to our very first convention as well.
So it's going to have a Stargate taste to it.
Oh, definitely. I don't want to give it away just yet. I want everyone to be surprised when they get there in 2021.
Okay. Will a Stargate potentially be included in it?
It will definitely be a Stargate.
Okay.
It's the location of where the Stargate is that...
Okay, I can't possibly think of any of those. Well, that's very tantalizing.
Yeah.
Absolutely, everybody. That's an Australian artist. What's her name? The gal?
Vanessa Amorosi.
Vanessa Amorosi, and this is a song. YouTube it when you get the chance because it's a great song. And like we talked about in a previous interview, when actually, you know what? I'm going to back up because I want Friend to introduce this portion of it. I asked you a couple of years ago what your favorite moment of a convention is. So tee that up for me, Friend.
Hey, what did I say?
When the music starts.
Oh, yeah.
That favorite moment.
So fill in the gaps from there. The energy in the room, the anticipation. You guys have been working on this thing for months.
And you're standing there in the dark, pitch black. Yeah, you're just waiting. Nothing's happening. Then all of a sudden the music starts, and the energy that fills the room, especially in the latter events when people obviously know what's coming, and the amazing feeling you get. The people that are cheering, they're dancing, they're singing, and it's just fantastic. And it's all down to this song.
Yeah, the Gatecon logo is typically the first thing that you see every year. It gradually fades in. And the only thing that I can compare it to is when you're at the theater and it's dark and the Lucasfilm logo comes up and then all you see is a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. And there's this anticipation inside you of exactly what's going to come next. And that the fingerprints of that experience are all over that opening to Gatecon. It's just so intense. And the cool thing about that is then what happens next. And that's, Allen, you guys put in pictures of pretty much almost everybody at the event.
Yeah, so we put out the call to all the ticket holders to send in images. And in the early days, they had no idea why I was asking for them. And so they'd all send those in, and then I'd just create a body, because the thing about a convention and other conventions I've been to is that the people that get forgotten about the most are the people attending the convention. It's not only about the people on stage, it's about the people coming to the convention. And if you can't make them feel welcome and make them feel part of the convention, that's where other conventions fall flat. And by having the intro video, from the word go, from the very first moment of the convention, everyone feels like they're part of the convention. And it just really helps the weekend. And it gives it an uplifting feel from the start.
What was the magic, guys, about that first year that spawned another convention?
It was people coming up to us, even though we thought it had been a disaster from start to finish. People, by the end of the weekend, people were coming up and saying, "You will do another one, won't you?" And it's the fact that people wanted us to do another one. We only ever really intended to do one event just to show that we could do it. And we never thought we'd be going for 20 years, So it was people coming up and saying, "We enjoyed it so much, please do another one."
That was fans as well as cast, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, you'd had some people who had been standing in line for 6 hours on the registration day, then coming up at the end of the weekend and saying, "Forget that, you did a great job, let's do it again."
Wow. Friend, Ian, any thoughts on that? Same experience?
Well, what surprised me the most about that first one was we were just fans. I mean, I suppose we still are, but we were fans back then. We jumped in at the deep end, did this convention, and all these people that bought tickets, I think it was about 200 and something, 300 tickets sold, I can't remember. They took that leap of faith. They didn't know what we were going to do. I mean, we were just the same as them. And that's what gets me, is that the people actually had the faith in us to do it and then wanted more, which was brilliant. But yeah, it just always takes me aback that they trusted us to put something on and not just run off with their money, basically.
And that first time in the auditorium before the video started and people are all coming in and sitting down, and we're standing there thinking, these people are here because of us, because of what we're doing. We've now got to provide something good for them.
Exactly. I can imagine that's a bit overwhelming. I never thought of it that way. It's like, it is now our job to entertain these people. 500 is typically how many guests are invited, right? Or
that's probably the average. I think 2004 we maxed out at 1,000 people.
Okay.
That was the capacity of the room. We couldn't fit any more in. And we've had, I think 2008 was 800 people at the Wall Centre.
It's getting gradually less as the years go on. I suppose people are, money's tighter and it's gradually dying down. But
the diehard fan popularity, I mean, at a certain point, when money is tight, it's like, I loved it, but I've done it. So, I mean, the diehards are going to keep it alive for a few years to come, I think. So
we've never wanted to go big anyway. We've always wanted to keep it between 300 and 500.
Keep it intimate, because it's a celebration between the talent and the fan base that kept it alive for as long as it was. I mean, it ran for 17 freaking seasons, for crying out loud. Only a handful of shows that can do that. But yeah, and I'm not deliberately bypassing Stef to anyone who's watching. She came in later, and so I'm going to have a couple of questions for her. So this is not the first crisis that Gatecon has dealt with over the course of its 20-year run. Allen and Richard and Friend, tell us about when you came into Vancouver in 2001 and what happened. Then this was for the second convention.
Yeah, both myself and Richard arrived on September 10, 2001, and relaxing afternoon there. I don't think I got in till the afternoon anyway. And then first thing morning, September 11, I turned the TV on, and literally the moment I turned the TV on, there was a bang at my door, and I opened up, and it was Richard, and he said, "Are you seeing this?" And the whole event of 9/11 was happening right in front of our eyes on television.
Didn't the second plane crash as soon as you turned the channel?
Yeah, just after.
Into the second tower was it?
Yeah, and pretty much as soon as just after Richard walked in the room.
Yeah, because I was down using the hotel gym, which is an unusual activity for me. But I was down there using the gym, and no one else was using any of the equipment. They were all gathered around the TV screen that they had up in the corner of the room. And I thought, what on earth's going on? And that's when I saw the tower being hit. So yeah, first reaction was tell Sue, because obviously he was American. And then, spent the rest of the day watching the developments.
Did you think about canceling?
We did at one stage.
We did at one stage, friend,
but we made, wasn't even a thought or a decision to cancel, because at that stage, there was no time to really think at all, because so much was happening. We had some of our attendees already arrive, the majority of which were from the US. So there was just a case of hysteria. And by the time we sort of gathered ourselves, we decided we needed, and so we did.
I remember you talking about Eric Avari who's I believe he's from New York, or spent a great deal of his time, in New York, having a particularly difficult time with it, and realizing I forget what it was that he said about being, you know, like he needed the event or something. Can you tell us about Eric in that situation? Because Allen, I know you're particularly, you guys are all particularly close with him.
Yeah, it was me. He came up to me and he said he wasn't going to come because he was worried about the flight, worried about how it'd be perceived, and he was a bit concerned about that. But he was so glad that he actually came, and he said it was just amazing. It was the best thing he ever did was to come to Gatecon, and it just made him feel so much better about everybody and life in general. Yeah, he was just grateful we hadn't cancelled.
Yeah, we had a few guests saying the same thing. Tony Amendola also said he felt he needed to be here, and he was so glad he came to the convention. In some of the guests, almost in an act of defiance against terrorism. Life would go on and still do what we need to do.
Yeah, I mean, if you cancel the events, mourning is so important, you know, and there's a time and a place for it. And if you cancel an event like this, they win. And, you know, I'm really grateful that you guys, you know, continue to do what you did there and complete what it was that, you know, you had wanted to start from the beginning. So absolutely. Alan, my first memory of the event that I first attended was in 2003. And in the time that event had aired, that event took place, Evolution Part 1 in Season 7 of SG1 had aired and introduced the Super Soldier. Now tell us about you and Dan Payne.
That was a lot of fun. There was actually a few things about that convention because we did the video introduction for that convention as well. It was the first time we ever met Dan, and he sort of introduced himself and said he's the guy behind the Super Soldier. You know, at that stage, the Super Soldier didn't have a name. And he said, "Oh, look, I can bring the suit along if you want." And we said, "Yeah, that'd be great. You know, I'll do some photographs and everything." And then we started talking, and he said, "Hey, do you want to do something on stage?" I said, "Yeah," because back then I was dressed in a Tokra uniform. And
Argentianos.
No, the original one for the first few years was actually one I made myself.
Okay.
I didn't use Carmen's one till about 2004, I think, 3 or 4. Yeah, so Dan just wanted to have a bit of fun, and so we come up with this plan that once I got on stage, we'd do some special effects and sound to make it sound like there was a battle happening backstage, and we had flashing lights and everything. And Dan comes out as the Super Soldier, the Cull Warrior, and grabs me from behind, literally lifts me up to the ceiling. And it's almost like vertigo because he's not a short person at all.
And in the suit, he's even bigger.
Yeah. And then he grabs me and drags me outside the convention hall, and the doors close behind us, and everyone's just sort of, all the attendees are just sort of sitting there going, "Okay, yeah, what just happened and what's going to happen next?" And then we had the sounds of a fight outside of the room. And then obviously I got the better of the Super Soldier, and I actually dragged him by his nose piece back through the audience and dragged him up on stage. And yeah, I won. It was a lot of fun.
That piece has just been released on our YouTube channel as well. That went up yesterday.
Oh yeah! Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, that's you know, it again, you know, is a tribute to the quality of the production that you guys are making, and you know, keeping it interesting for fans. That was really cool, and that Dan was willing to do that. I mean, Payne, his last name is quite a happy accident, because it's hard to figure out anyone who has endured more pain and suffering as a background actor in Stargate than Dan Payne has.
Yeah.
Jaffa's blowing up and everything else. And in his case, you know, he stood for fans in that suit and took photographs all day on photo day or whatever it was, however you guys have that. Stef, tell us about the rugby incident.
So that was in 2007 in Reading, and it was the World Cup with rugby, and it was South Africa versus England. So we had it was auction night, and so we got the hotel to put out a TV so we could stream it live, and we had Colin Cunningham and JR Bourne at the back trying to commentate on rugby, and they had no idea. But unfortunately, England lost. So the next day, we got a rugby ball, and got Sue-Ann and Cliff Simon, I think, to sign it. And she got a bit excited and decided to kick it into the audience, but it hit the roof, bounced off, went straight into the front row, and it hit Elaine Marr and her camera. And Sue-Ann goes, "Who's the conduct?" And it was Elaine.
Was she filming?
I think she was. I think she's got a picture, of the rugby ball coming at her.
And Alan, how did you memorialize that?
Yes, so in 2016, when I built the stage, resolution graphics files, and there's a lot of Easter eggs through there. But on the right side of the stage, there was a huge effigy of Hathor. And obviously we know Sue-Ann played Hathor in Stargate. And then she was, in the original image from Egypt, she's holding a plate. So I actually removed and put a Gilbert rugby ball in her hand. So it was Hathor with the rugby ball.
I think my favorite is the quote from an absent friend of ours. That's basically the motto.
They took the seed of an idea and planted it and outgrew Gatecon.
My best memory of Don wasn't actually on the stage or at the convention. He invited us over to his house just before, I don't know what year it was. And we hung out with Don and his dog. Showed us, he took us into the garage and showed us his art studio, and it was just a lot of fun. We sat there, we played with his dog, and we drank his beer, and that was probably the fondest memory I have of Don. He was just, it wasn't like a star and a fan. It was just, a couple of people, a couple of friends just hanging out and chilling. And it was really, really nice and really genuine.
He was one of the greatest, men, period. Just a gentleman's gentleman. And I think about him all the time. I just him and Carmen, Joel Goldsmith, anyone else have any memories of Don?
That's probably the best one, really.
And is this your wife?
Yeah, well, I try and forget that. Thanks, David.
And Hathor's with me as well.
You already brought it up.
I was just going to say that I thought Carmen was a gentleman's gentleman as well. He always had time to talk.
Yeah.
Always friendly. Always had a good word.
Lovely man.
Really nice guy.
Yeah, we've lost a lot of great people. It's one of the things that I wanted to bring up is, everything that's ever, in my experience, been connected to Stargate, it does go back to that seed that was planted. And I think that, Brad Wright and Jonathan Glassner and all the people that started Richard Dean Anderson, was hugely important to the how do I want to put this? Like the vibrations of the show that were going to be put out. And very much it's one of the things that Brad Wright, has said to me over the years, LTS, life's too short, and it's just, i.e., in other words, meaning, keep it real. If something is stressful, overly stressful. It's not worth doing, especially when you're dealing with one another. To treat each other well. And that show and that franchise always was that. And it's in the DNA of Gatecon as well. That same vibrancy, that same energy, that same character, and love for people, and the quality of the work that they did, you know, is one that's evergreen, and it just doesn't die. And new generations have discovered it. Grandchildren have discovered it at this point, you know, from the original fans. It's an extraordinary thing to behold. And I am not surprised that we are still doing this after 20 years.
We just need the show back.
That would be nice.
A show back, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that, absolutely. Guys, this has been a pleasure catching up with all of you. Is there anything else that you would like to add before I wrap things up?
Really, I think to thank people for bearing with us through what's happening this year, and, you know, see you in 2021.
Oh, and happy birthday, GateWorld.
Oh yes, GateWorld turns 20. GateWorld turns 21 in October. So yeah, October of 1999. So thank you for that. We do appreciate it. Cool. Isn't that just crazy? So
yeah,
man, absolutely. Stef, thank you for joining us as well. You were a youngin' when we first started. Your first convention was 04, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
You've grown up with this thing.
Yeah.
What's that like?
Fun.
I guess it's just like, it's normal.
Yes.
So, it was fun.
Used to the crazy.
Absolutely. Yeah, I remember Rainbow Sun Franks last year saying, you know what, Stef really held my hand through a lot of things and just you know, propped him up and made him look good. So that's not easy to do with a lot of actors. So
certainly not with him.
Oh no, he's okay. He's just a little crazy. So one of the best human beings on the face of the planet is Rainbow Sun Franks, as far as I'm concerned. Guys, thank you so much for making this opportunity possible and having a virtual event this weekend. And I really look forward to spending the rest of it with you guys and the people who are going to be brought on. It's not the same, but it's far better than what we would have had otherwise, which is nothing at all.
Yeah.
So if you enjoyed watching this video, and if you have a moment, I appreciate you in the viewing and listening audience to go and check out makeawishbc.ca and consider sending them a donation on behalf of these wonderful people. You know, I mean, I'm sure they would have added, you know, thousands of dollars to that pool of giving to this very worthy cause. And I understand a lot of people can't do that. I completely get that, you know. A lot of us are very strapped for cash. If that is within your power, though, it would mean a great deal of all of us if you could go over there and have a look and see if you could contribute something. But guys, thank you so much for joining me. And let's bring on more Gatecon stuff this weekend.
Yeah, plenty planned.
Appreciate it.
Everyone out there, be safe, and we'll all talk to you soon.
Bye.
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 Bye.